You know, the fan. Me too. I'm like, I'm turning this shit off.
Yeah.
But it's hot, man. I'm big, dude. I sweat. Fucking bald, and I sweat like an animal.
I sweat peeling an orange, man.
I sweat tying my
that's
shoes,
good.
all that shit.
70 degree, anything above 70 degrees, and nah, I'm done. So Texas is what?
Good.
Austin is the wrong place to live, right?
Not well.
Oh man.
Walter
Yeah, I feel
did.
you. I was cleaning the house yesterday and I bent down to grab something. And after I bent down and grabbed it, I went, huh.
Hey, you know one thing, like,
Holy shit.
hey, that's the one thing about like I have my office on the second floor, and then you have to go through some really like narrow stairs. And once I make it up there, and I go talk to somebody, it helps that I'm wearing a mask because otherwise they would see me hyperventilating.
Oh, it's the mask. Blame it on the
I'm
mask.
like,
They just
I'm
see the
like
mask
open.
doing the balloon thing.
yeah, yep, like open mouth breathing, like Vader. But I don't know. I now that we're talking about that, I don't know if now that I have a mask or wear a mask, it doesn't make you guys more self-conscious about your breath. Like, is it fuck me apesta, güey? Like,
No, I think you got a problem, man.
like,
Right.
Garrotazos in your direction. Don't play. Lo voy a hacer mío. Ya sabes. Now it's about time I stepped in with the gangster lean. It's about that time, homeboy. Aquí pues sky high y la rola está bien machine. That's how I do it cuando entro chueco. Now it's time to get this party cracking. It's time to let them know what's happening. It's about time I stepped in with the gangster lean. No cheap talk and I get what I want.
¿Qué onda, primos y primas, and welcome back to My Primos podcast. My name is Freddy, and with me tonight is my primo and yours, el Chicume, el 7. My primo and yours, el Walter. Say what's up, Walter.
hello, buenas tardes, ¿cómo están todos, niños y niñas, muchachos, viejas, cabrones, cabronas? Síganme.
Alright, that's new. But I guess we are back took a little break last week. You guys heard Javier on the show, and we teased it a little bit. Also, tonight we have some special guests. We have Walter. How about you?
Take
introduce
two,
them?
take
Take
two.
two. Because we tried this before, but the world we live in, the internet was on fire. But Walter, who do we have with
Yeah.
us today?
5 minutes. It's been a while. We've been trying to get them on since last time we met them at the after party after Texas
AfterCon.
Comic Con.
Yeah.
AfterCon. And I don't know. We've been, at least me. I've been trying to kind of like, hey, whenever Freddie's down in Austin, let's get together. Get in the same room, record something. But all of a sudden COVID kids showed up all of a sudden, right? And
Yeah.
well, not all of a sudden, we saw that motherfucker coming, we just didn't do anything about it. But the powers that be. But anyways, a year later, here we are.
It's
finally
yeah,
doing.
July, right? Yeah, so close to a year later.
Yeah,
we
it's
have,
July.
Go ahead, guys. I'm excited to have you on.
Well, guys, if you guys introduce yourselves, if you could kind of tell everybody what's up, and we can kind of just dive in.
Sure. So my name's Rolando Esquivel. I do writing and edit for 5 Meets Comics. Course which consists of Mashbone and Grifty and Lemon Pepper Hugs, are 2 titles so far. But yeah, that is my primary role with 5 Meets. Oscar.
And my name is Oscar G, and I'm here to say I like to draw comics every day. For 5 Meets Comics.
Cool. Well, guys, we're glad you're here today. We're gonna
Slash
have some fun.
wrestler. Don't forget that. You always forget that wrestler/wrestler.
Yeah, that's true. Independent
Extraordinaire.
comedy wrestler for Hardy World Wrestling.
Hold on, I
Sharp
like-
No, but
Brown.
say it right. How do you
Hold on.
say it?
Oh, hold on.
You say it
Let's
right.
you mulled over that title, independent
Yeah.
comedy wrestler.
Yeah, independent
Yeah.
comedy wrestler. Because I don't like doing anything unless it's funny. So
Like that
it's got to
sentence.
be funny. So
Gotcha. But, cool.
so while the other guys are eating, drinking those creatine shakes and lifting weights, You know, I'm working on my rumbly tumbly and my jokes and trying to make people laugh in the ring.
Cool. Goes hand in hand with what you guys do too. You know, having fun, making people laugh.
Yeah.
And we'll dive right in. Of course, just kind of remind everybody we are on all social media at My Primos Podcast. You can find us here week to week. Of course, keep an eye out on all social media for any updates and just guests coming along too. You guys check these guys out at 5 Meets. They're pretty much all over social media. If you just hit up at 5 Meets Comics or 5 Meets Comics, they come up. That way we can make sure to get them some views, some likes, some shares, all that, guys. You know, definitely.
Get us some love.
Some love out there.
Yeah.
But
some RT,
also real quick before we get into it, I'd like to send a shout out to Reyes Coffee. I sent you a picture, right, Stanley?
Yep.
They literally me mandaron un pinche costal de café ahorita for my parents, because I don't drink coffee for shit, but my parents really do. So, you know, Reyes Coffee está patrocinando my parents' mornings for the next, I don't know, 3 months probably, with the amount of coffee that they sent.
Reyes Coffee,
I like it.
coffee.
Yeah, very
Good
good.
coffee. Good
The
for the
Nicaragua, pretty good shit. Coffee from Nicaragua. So
Yeah, really
thank
good.
you, man. Reyes Coffee.
Reyes Coffee. All right, guys. So we talked about it.
Props.
It's been a year later. Here we are. We got excited about talking, meeting up. I know you and Walter hung out in Austin. Rolando, you're in Brownsville, right? So we're
Yep.
all remote. You know, we're kind of everybody's remote doing their thing. Then Corona hit. So we always start with that. How did Corona come in and impact you guys and what you're doing, your day to day, your work? Can you guys share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I also work in the call center environment. I'm actually I'm a trainer at a call center. So they started kind of letting people go in waves. But as soon as the city said, like, hey, or the county said, hey, we're gonna shut everything down unless you're essential, I stayed home from that point on. We got the computer in so I could work from home like a week and a half later, something like that. But been working from home ever since. So I mean, it's impacted the daily stuff, because, you know, get used to seeing a bunch of people in the building, and then going from that to not seeing anybody, and, you know, not just not seeing anybody from work, but less interaction with family and stuff like that. So definitely feeling the isolation. That's definitely been the big change for me.
Oscar, what about you, man?
Well, when the whole situation happened, it was very interesting because I went in on a Friday. I work at a video game company. I work on MMOs, and everything we do is completely digital. So as soon as I got there, they were like, everybody get your stuff and leave. Today is just go home day, grab all your stuff, and we'll pick it up again Monday. And pretty much without missing a beat, we all just started getting back to work. It was a little crazy at first, especially because I only have my kids with me every other week, which means every other week I'm like completely alone in the house. And at first it was a hard adjustment, because that also happened recently. So these two things happening at the same time, it almost felt kind of like a Twilight Zone episode, where all of a sudden, boom, I'm like completely alone. And you're just wandering the house.
What's it called? William Shatner outside the window? What's it
Not
called?
like that. Not like that.
Oh no! What it was like a monkey's paw, where it's like, you know, or like Twilight Zone, where the guy was like, oh,
Yeah.
I wish I could just read my books all by myself. Remember that guy?
Yeah.
And then like he went into the basement to get some like a jar of pickles or some shit, and then there was a bomb and everybody died.
Yeah.
And then he comes out and he's like, oh, I can finally read my books.
Then he breaks his
like that.
glasses. He can't read.
Yeah. Yeah. It was kind of like that. So like every other week I'm kind of wandering around like a guy in like a space shuttle, like all by myself. It's kind of weird. And then I always have to remind myself I could just like walk in the backyard and get some air.
You could, but do we? You know what I mean? I did. You know, I did. Today, speaking of which, same thing with like me. I work in a call center environment, so I'm used to seeing, 1,300 people in this huge facility. Mm-hmm. And then out of nowhere, as soon as things started trickling in where they're saying, hey, if you have a kid, daycare. Boom, I don't care. I need it. I'm going home. Send me home. I went home, took whatever time I could, and they called me mid at home. Hey, come pick up a computer. Come home. Do what you got to do. But, yeah, like outside, man. Today I was outside boxing with my kid. Like, I can't take him to the gym anymore. He was doing boxing and jiu-jitsu and all that stuff. He's 10 years old. It was kind of cool.
No, getting my ass kicked by my kid outside.
No, but se pasa. Like, se pasa. I don't know if, like...
I'm getting my ass kicked outside.
I don't know about you guys, right? We're all guys here, obviously. But at what point did you think, I could fuck up my dad? Like, at what point did you really think, like, I can punch this
fuck you, old man.
I can fuck you up. Like, at what point?
The only time I ever felt I could take my dad is when he got sick with cancer.
Damn.
And then I was like, oh shit, now I can take him down.
Oh, shit.
But like, but that's like cheating, you know? It's
yeah.
You want to take him down in his
Well,
prime.
I think for me it was when I saw my younger brothers, like 6 years younger than me, hit my dad square in the nuts and like folded him over. I was like, why?
He has a weakness.
All right.
It never even crossed my mind because he probably would have known that I was thinking of plotting against him. But my younger brother was braver than me, I guess. So yeah.
No, like my kid has a look in his eye. Like he has the gloves on. I'm telling him, all right, come on, and square up, get in there. He looks at me like one punch, like one good punch, and he'll trick me. I'll be like, all right, man, I have the mitts up and everything, and I bought the mitts. All right, cool, we'll do 1, 2, blah blah blah. And he doesn't even wait for me to like get ready. He just starts launching punches at me. And I'm like, hey, chill. I'm like, hey, I can hit back. So yeah, I think he's on the cusp of that. He's thinking he can take me, but we'll hopefully. What about you, Walter?
You know my dad, so fuck no, bro.
Still can't take your dad.
Hell no. My dad, le decían el carnicero. He was a military guy during the Civil War in El Salvador at the beginning of it. He joined the army at 14 years old and lied about it and said he was like 18 or something like that.
Damn.
You know, so yeah, it's like, nah, hell no, I've never thought about that. I mean, maybe in the next couple of months, maybe, like, but,
hey, man,
but no, I can't say I have.
Time.
Throw some marbles on the floor and you might have a chance.
Home alone. But you know, I want to know about you guys. I mean, we pal around, have a good time, but I want to know about you guys, how you coming up together. Like, how'd you guys meet, spark this romance that became the 5 Meats and kind of led to where you are now? I mean, you guys known each other for a long time? How'd that start?
The story behind the meats.
Yeah,
the 5 Meats.
Yeah, we've known each other since the 8th grade. It was middle school. It was a science class, I think, and I think it was a mutual friend. It was this other guy that I had in another class. It was a friend of Oscar's. He's the one that kind of introduced us, and immediately started laying into Oscar. Started like trying to roast him. It was funny. But me and Oscar became really good buddies. It was basically like bonding over like cartoons and wrestling pretty much. And then I think the comics thing kind of came along with that, but that was a little bit later. But that was kind of the primary thing, definitely the wrestling thing. Then like 10th grade is when we became like better friends, started talking more about the wrestling, started actually talking about being professional wrestlers and having a tag team and stuff.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, and from that point on is kind of where the little like projects started to kind of start. So after that, we did backyard wrestling. We had our little backyard wrestling.
I was gonna ask, man, the backyard wrestling, dude. Like,
yeah,
that did that. I had a buddy that did that so much. His parents were in on it. They're like, "Cool, we'll do it in the backyard. we'll sell some fucking yuca frita right here, some soda right here. You guys do this and this." Then it's all fun and games until like guy's forehead split open with a razor blade because he wanted to just cut a little bit. He's like, I was gonna cut a little bit. Nope, went too far. Boo, boo, boo. Ambulance shows up, and then no more backyard wrestling.
That sucks, man. No, ours was pretty contained, man. Ours was pretty contained. It was actually at my house, and it was in my room. And we would, and we called it backyard wrestling, but it was, we tried to protect ourselves. We put like mattresses down. Like we put like 3 mattresses down. We put one against the wall because we had already broke it once.
Yeah.
But basically all we were doing, basically what that whole thing was, the whole purpose of that was just so me and Oscar could practice wrestling moves because eventually we did want to be wrestlers. But I actually told him
go like to the route to like actually try to go into a school and like prepare for that?
Well, Oscar?
Kinda. What happened was we went to a wrestling show in Brownsville, and we knew a kid from high school who turned out to be the promoter's son.
Oh.
And so after the matches, after the show, he invited us in the ring, and we started messing around in the ring. And turns out like, the owner was like watching us the whole time. And so eventually the owner, which was the kid's dad, said, like, oh, if you guys want to do this, you can, come practice, and you guys will have a match in 2 months. Was it 2 months?
No, it was in like the next week. He wanted us to go at first, and we're like,
shit.
hell no.
Madre.
No, yeah.
It's like Saved by the Bell. It's like Zack Attack all over again. It's just like
Yeah.
just happens.
Wow.
Yeah, because and that's what I was saying earlier about the backyard wrestling was kind of just me and Oscar practicing moves, because the routine that we did that caught his eye, it was like our opening routine whenever we had like a match against each other in our backyard wrestling thing. It was that exact same routine. Collar elbow tie up, doing a few flips here and there, thrown to the rope, shoulder block, pretty standard stuff. And I mean, we'd already been practicing it for like a year and a half, so he was like impressed.
These guys just talk like I don't know, it just sounds like Cirque du Soleil, and I'm like, what? Like I wasn't doing that shit. It was like jacking off, bro. Like,
well, I mean, we did that too.
We did that too. Just,
Who doesn't?
I mean,
Yeah,
that's how you break a wall.
I was making deals. I was making deals durante Semana Santa that I wasn't gonna jack off. Like, no, I'm gonna.
That was the only negotiations being done.
Yeah, my negotiations were.
And
Man, that's crazy though. Like, how do you? Because as Latinos, I always like soccer, right? Te ponen a un equipo, and then you kind of eres volante, delantero, portero, but like it kind of seems like out of left field, at least from how I grew up, like wrestling. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I grew up watching it from a really young age, lucha libre in Matamoros, because I was living there until I was like 4 or 5 in Matamoros from my grandparents' house, and I'd watch lucha with my grandfather. Then when I moved over here to the States, back to the States with my dad, he's the one that started telling me about like kind of like history and like old feuds and stuff, because his dad, my grandfather, used to take him to the Sportatorium in Dallas, and so he gave me like all that history, and so we'd watch WWF and he'd give me history on those dudes. So that's kind of how I got into that. And I think, Oscar, it was kind of the same thing with you, right? Like your dad got into that too.
Yeah, my dad and his brother were huge wrestling fans growing up. I have a picture of my dad on my computer from the 70s, and he's reading Pro Wrestling Illustrated.
oh wow.
And yeah, and so he was always into it. And then once I got a little, like maybe like 5 or 6, we just started watching wrestling all the time. My brother too, but more me, and that wrestling was like the number one thing that I always bonded with my dad over. I mean, we used to skip church because they had wrestling on Sunday mornings.
Yeah.
My mom would get
had to go to your other church, church.
Yeah, she'd get so annoyed about it, and like normally she would get me to go, but then if there was a certain advertisement on the show, or like the one specific one I remember was Gene Okerlund saying, "Don't forget, at the end of the show, Macho Man Randy Savage is gonna talk about his upcoming match." I was like, "He's gonna talk, Mom. I can't miss it. I can't miss it." And she was so angry, and my dad wasn't planning on going to church anyways. He's like, I'm gonna be here.
You right now you even sounded like a little kid. He's gonna talk, Mom. Like,
yeah, because
Mom.
like, wrestlers are so cool. You love watching them wrestle, but like if they're gonna talk, man, you want.
So your parents when they told you, and if they jump off a bridge, are you gonna do it too? Yeah, if they do a backflip, like I don't know what's like, what move is like.
If it looks cool and they win a title afterwards, I'm all about it.
Yeah, I'd be like, well, Mom, wrestlers are kind of doing that nowadays. So,
yeah.
But
I kind of, it's pretty cool, like, cause I grew up with 2 brothers and 1 sister, but my 2 younger brothers was like back to back, so I was 9, 8, and 7, so I can kind of understand that we would get into one room and we would just start fucking wrestling, like throwing each other pillows and jumping off the corner, and then boom, all of a sudden somebody hits their head on the wall and starts crying.
No, don't cry.
Yep.
You know,
So,
what's
so,
crazy
so
is
that's pretty cool, man. I can kind of connect with that, like that whole feeling.
I grew up with sisters, so I don't have any brothers.
They
I'm the
beat
opposite.
you.
All right, so
So
I have
you
older
grew up
sister
on
that
defense
I
then,
grew up on defense. I
strictly
got
defense.
scratched and beat up. I remember a couple of good fist fights with my older sister. But
Wow.
with me, oh my dude, we went at it like she, whew, yeah, tough woman. But I love her mom to death. You know how that goes.
Good,
But
good.
wrestling, I know the enough in the ether of pop culture and friends and all that about wrestling, and I give it its respect. I give it its pageantry, right? Because it's awesome. It's great when someone can produce a fucking universe and a story and characters and we can buy into the experience, right? I wanted to like wrestling when I was a kid, but I liked after wrestling when WMAC Masters came on, and it was like, oh, the martial arts version of WWF came on, and I'm like, Hakeem the Machine fights Tsunami and like all that shit. Like, I was enthralled in that. But yeah, wrestling is always cool. And now looking back, and my kid and his, he doesn't watch wrestling, but his friends do. And I'm kind of like, hey, go check it out, give it a shot. Because my parents never, ever, our parents, Walter. I mean, we never had anything
Yeah,
that they
like
can
that,
connect
yeah,
to
we
because
didn't.
they
It's
were
like a
refugees.
grown man in underwears.
So
Nah, I don't think
they're
they
like,
do
why do you want to see this?
that.
Why do you want to see this guy in calzoncillos
All
rubbing against
yeah,
another
all
guy? And it's
oiled
like,
up. Yeah, all
but
oiled up.
but
Grown
what?
men.
Where did you guys decide the little projects, like you said, right? Rolando, you say, oh, projects started coming in, wrestling's a thing. So wrestling didn't pan out, right? Did something happen, or you just say, you know what, it's not for us? Like, what kind of happened after that?
Well, we got into wrestling. Our first match was right after senior year of high school, like right after we graduated, or I'm sorry, no, right before we graduated. Was our
Right.
first match. I wrestled for about 2 or so years after that, on and off, because that summer I moved to Houston to go to college. So I was kind of torn, like either stay in Brownsville and do the wrestling thing, try to follow the dream, or go to school. So I ended up going to school, helping my brother out too with his business. Oscar stayed around in Brownsville for about another year, right, Oscar? I think, and
Yeah.
And he wrestled here for a bit. But after that, like for me, it just kind of died away a little bit, just because I was working a lot.
Yeah.
I was kind of career minded at that point. I still, still avid wrestling fan and everything, but as far as like actually doing it, it was kind of like way in the back of my mind. But Oscar kept up with it really well. Like he kept up with it quite a bit, and I kept trying to get back into it, trying to get back in shape, but then it never panned out for me. But Oscar kind of has a different story to tell on that, though.
Well, it kind of sort of panned out. It's kind of like in retrospect where, as a kid, you say, I want to be a wrestler. As a kid, that means you want to be on TV. You want to be like a big,
Yeah,
jacked
you want to
up,
be the
muscle guy.
the face. You want to be happy.
So like, but now I look at it, it's like, I wrestle a couple times a year for the best wrestling company in Texas, in my opinion, the best fans. So like I achieved that goal in a way that didn't exist back then, and I tried to get into wrestling schools. I got into one here in Austin when I moved here, but like the backstage culture, and you get on Twitter right now, you're gonna read a lot about it. A lot of things are getting exposed now.
I bet.
That like the backstage culture is just so toxic, misogynistic, racist, all the bad things rolled into one, and I just didn't like it. So I stayed with the company here for a little while, and then I ended up taking one of the students to Brownsville to do a wrestling show with the guys who trained us. And that wrestling show was like night and day. It was just a ton of fun. The backstage atmosphere was totally different. It was, because the backstage atmosphere was like a bunch of old farts just talking shit about doing. They just get in the ring and they do. And the kid that I brought, he was like amazed, like, wow, this is like totally different. This is really cool. And like the promoter came up and asked us who's going to win our match. And he was shocked. He's like, "Wait, they're gonna let us decide? Are you serious?"
That's
like,
cool.
Yeah, because like, who cares? I mean, they're probably gonna care for the guys at the top, but like we're just there to put on a show, man. Like, we don't have a storyline or a feud, and we're not pretending we're on TV. It's just fun. So after that, when I came back to Austin, I was like, yeah, I think I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And I didn't do it for 8 years until these guys showed up, Party World Wrestling.
That's a hiatus.
They're pretty. Yeah, and they were a bunch of really funny guys who wanted to put on a very entertaining show, but none of them were wrestlers, and none of them knew how to be safe. So I got talked into training them.
Oh, wow.
And because wrestling is like the hardest drug I've ever taken. It's the hardest drug a lot of people have ever taken. I
so
easily
you got some of that wrestling?
Yeah, I went in there and I took a couple bumps. I took a couple slams and I slammed some people and I ran the ropes, and it was way too easy to talk me back in to being a wrestler.
I bet.
That was like 7 years ago, I think, or 6 years ago.
So that's cool. I mean, you guys, it's a trip, like when you start talking to people about, hey, what did you want to do? Oh shit! In a way, you dabbled and you got to what you wanted to do. Maybe not to the grandeur that you thought you wanted, right? Like you said,
right.
Like you thought you wanted the TV, the attention, and you go, you know what? Once you're there, it's like, what's that whole saying? Like, never meet your heroes, because they, you kind of always get a letdown. They're not going to be the personification you see. But that's a cool journey. That's a fucking dope journey that you guys got. And then, I'm just curious to know what happened after that. So you guys decide, what, year or two later, let's do something. I mean, how did that even happen?
Well, we always had things in our minds. We're always, just hanging out and saying silly stuff to make each other laugh. And sometimes we'd say something funny enough to where we'd write it down. And it would just snowball into, like, little stories. And we never actually, like, fully sat down at first and said, hey, let's actually, like, do something with all this stuff. But a couple, years later, we eventually, like, had that conversation and we're like, let's do something. And we had, like, notebooks full of stuff. So it took a while to come up to have a concrete thing. And meanwhile,
let me interject for a second. I'm curious, right? So how I follow it, did you guys have this? I mean, wrestling is one thing. Your boys, you're hanging out, giving each other a hard time like most guys do. Did you guys, were you guys artistic guys? Like, were you drawing? Were you writing? Was that something you were always doing in the meantime?
Yeah, and both things. I drew a lot when I was little, especially when I was little. I still doodle and stuff, but I drew a lot when I was a kid. I sucked, but I drew a lot. Like I love drawing, but then I fell in love with writing. And so the drawing thing, I wasn't too concerned with that. As far as the writing thing for me, it was really, I think, about the 5th grade. We had a storybook week, and we had to come up with a story. Like we had to get a fairy tale, put our own twist on it, which is funny because I'm watching Masterclass. I have that app or whatever, and I'm reading or I'm going through Neil Gaiman's storytelling class. Yeah, and he gives that as like an exercise for creative writing, and I was like, holy crap! I did that in the 5th grade. I did it with a Little Red Riding Hood. But as I was watching that masterclass, I was thinking that's really cool that this exercise that he's giving I already did. Did it with Red Riding Hood. Put a spin on it. But then I remembered, wait, I lifted that story from like a Tex Avery cartoon or something. So like the story. So I got the story, but I had to write out the actual thing. But I was kind of trying to remember what it was. So anyway, it was from the perspective of the big bad wolf. Like he was supposed to be painting himself like he's a good guy and stuff, and like Riding Hood was evil. So anyway, I got mad props from my teacher because of that. And she kept encouraging the writing part. So that's kind of where I liked the writing aspect of it. During about the same time is when I also got into comic books, and so that's why I was trying to do the writing and the drawing thing, because I wanted to do my own book. There was a couple guys in class that were better at drawing than me, that was supposed to be my partners in the comic thing. Yeah. But it never panned out. So
I know that feeling.
Yeah. Man. So and it's funny because fast forward years and years later, and it wasn't until like college that started looking into the comic book thing a little more seriously with Oscar. But that's where the creativity thing, that's where it started with me. Then in the 8th grade with me and Oscar, whenever we first started talking in that science class, I think that was when you had that folder, right, Oscar, that had all the fake band names and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Oscar had this folder where he would just write like logos for fake bands, and we would just come up with like the stupidest thing.
For fake
Like
bands?
Yeah, like one of them was what was it? Like the abdominal snowman, and it was like a yeti.
Oh yeah,
like,
it was
doing,
a
like,
Yeti with the
crunches.
abs.
Yeah, and so it was stupid things like that, and it was like this whole like folder covered with a bunch of like little logos and
That's
stuff.
a T-shirt,
So
man.
that's kind of where. Yeah, and that's kind of where that stupidity with the creativity came in, and yeah, years later, we just kind of kept going with it. But that's where it started with us with that. As far as wrestling, and I don't mean to go on a little too long here, but as far as the wrestling thing, like that kind of coincided with everything else. As far as wrestling's always been a constant. So along with wrestling, there's the other stuff that's kind of been in between there. But yeah, man, storytelling's always been a thing for me. Like watching wrestling when I was a kid, playing with my GI Joes when I was a kid. Like that's the big thrill for me, playing with GI Joes, was coming up with a story and then having this like 5 or 6 dudes like beat the crap out of all these bad guys.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where my obsession with storytelling came in. But yeah, we've been working on stuff together for a while.
No, I mean, it's cool, but you just talk about, what you guys have worked on. You're working on, well, you're working on, or have worked on, pardon, because I'm fumbling my words here. Your project, which is Mashbone and Grifty, right? Your comic book. Like, these characters are, first of all, I love them. They're hilarious. They're funny.
Thank you.
No, definitely. Like, when I first bought your books, I was like, this is fucking great. I can't wait till my kid's old enough to read it.
No,
it's not for kids.
Now that he said that, what's the appropriate age to read your comic book?
That is up to the parents.
Because I was thinking,
up to the parents.
I was thinking, my daughter is 10 months old, so she's not gonna remember any of it. So I can read it to her right now. And she's not gonna know anything. Yeah. So okay, I'll probably read it.
Pitch us.
I've been going through all my comics, so
I say that because it's not for kids. But so pitch us on Mashbone and Grifty. Who are Mashbone and Grifty? What is the book?
Well, Mashbone and Grifty is about 2 friends who haven't really done anything with their lives, and they decide to finally do that, and they can only do it with the help of each other. One of them always wanted to be like this world traveling, like Indiana Jones kind of guy, and the other guy wanted to be like this Jackie Chan, super cop kind of guy. So they ended up becoming private detectives, but they didn't really put in a whole lot of thought into it. They just printed up some flyers and said, hey, we're private detectives. And they just, they don't really want to leave the bar that they always hang out in, so they just hang out at the bar and put the address of the bar for their detective agency. And the thing that they run into is that it's a very cartoonish city where there's a lot of bad guys and problems, and the cops just aren't going to help. That's not much fantasy, but
yeah, the truth.
So the people start flocking to them for help, and these guys are way in over their heads, and hilarity ensues.
Definitely. Like, I'll tell you this much. I dig them. I bought 2 of them. I think I'm gonna pick up the other 2 because it's total 4 right now. Correct?
There will be 4 finalized in November. Yeah.
Okay, November.
There's 3 out right now.
3 out right now, and we'll talk about November here in a second. But I want to first of all give you guys tons of props, because every time I go look for a book, and I try to go to different conventions or whatnot, a lot of the stuff is either I feel I'm way too old to understand the comedy, or I'm way too young to understand the comedy. But this hits right at home for me. Like, I hit boom, everything, all the jokes. I looked at it as like a Lethal Weapon, kind of like with Latinos and Encyclopedia Brown and Beavis and Butthead kind of all fucking mixed together. You know what I mean? Like, it's a conglomerate of shit that I understand that makes me laugh, and the situations they're put in, it's like one of those fucking just random movies you put on you'll always laugh at. So old, like Sonny Chiba movie, you run in and he fights a fucking bear, like Karate Bear Fighter. You know, like that's a real movie, guys. Along with Velocipaster.
Yeah.
There it is. But yeah, it's a blast. It's fun, and I found it on Amazon. You talk about that. I found an animated version on Amazon. Talk about that.
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Did somebody rip off our cartoon?
I hope
What?
you can sue them. I hope you can sue them.
No, yeah, actually, that was my thesis in college. I went to college, art school.
Art college.
We had to do a 3 minute. We had to do a 1 minute short, and I ended up doing 3 minutes short. And then after college was over, I extended it into what's on Amazon, which is like their origin story, where it's like 9 minutes of them sitting around saying, "Let's be private detectives." So yeah, it was done a long time. It was done in what, 2004.
Yeah, I think it was 04.
Pretty crude. It's aged pretty badly. Well, visually, I think the writing still holds up fairly
good.
well.
People personally, like with anything, like your writing is great. Both of you guys, like connecting with that is awesome. Like the humor comes across really good.
Rolando does a good job as Grifty, I must say.
I was gonna ask, is you guys' voices, right? Because you guys are doing the voices.
Yeah.
That Mashbone was my Marty McFly impression.
Okay. Go check it out on Amazon. Go check it out.
It's a little bit of Marty McFly and a little bit of.
I didn't know you guys had that on Amazon. I'm gonna look it up today then. Shit.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah,
I got
my Grifty voice.
Let me use Prime for something. I'm doing deliveries.
What was that?
I said my Grifty voice was my best
something.
me voice.
That's your best me voice.
Yeah, I pretty much did my voice.
But so
yeah, it's really cool because like if you for every 10,000 views, we get a quarter.
Okay, guys, let's get this guy some lunch.
Cool. I'll get you 5 cents. I'll get you 5 cents.
Dozens of views. Dozens and
Tengo
dozens
ropa
of
que
views.
lavar.
There you go, man.
I get you. Yep. Calzones.
But the humor of it is great. I dig it. I feel like it's hard to write humor, right? Like people always say, "Oh, I can tell a joke, or I can do stand up, or I can do this."
No, it's like just like going on that same thing. I remember like early on when we were doing the podcast, like we thought about like I don't know, kind of like writing stuff, kind of not necessarily jokes, but fuck no, I just hit a wall. I'm like, nah, I'm not good at this shit. Like I just ad lib and whatever comes my way, right? But it's a fucking talent. What I'm trying to get at, it's no, this is como no cualquier cabrón hace eso, so it's very.
No, you guys are able to put comedy on paper and in a book like that.
Yeah.
It's tough, man. I mean, did you guys just kind of take to it easily, or did it? I mean, what kind of conflict did you guys have getting it done? Did you guys struggle with it at all?
Well, like that one video that you saw, that was pretty much our first like Mashbone and Grifty anything. That one we actually came up with on the fly. I don't remember if we wrote any of it down or if we just like said what we were gonna say and then recorded.
We did bullet points.
Bullet points. There you go. Yeah, so we kind of did it the night that we recorded the audio. So that seemed kind of relatively easy. Once we saw the finished product, and it was like cool. Like maybe we got something here. We also had another comic book series that we were going to start at about the same time. That was also a comedy. But we kind of were going here and there, with the project. As far as writing comedy, I mean well, let me backtrack a little bit. It did come easy to us because we're huge fans of comedy. It came easy to us in that way. Like we knew what we wanted to accomplish comedically. But as far as actually like getting the timing and everything down, that we had to kind of massage it. Especially like when it comes to me, because we did a comic strip for about a year or two that we put on Instagram and on I forget what was it, Tapas, right?
Yeah,
Oscar?
Tapas.
Yeah, it was Tapas.
Tapas and Webtoon. So
we did a 4-panel comic strip for a little bit, and whenever we would go over that, I would send the script over to Oscar so he could see it, and that's kind of how we write is write something, just kind of ping ponging back and forth. So I get responses back from Oscar, like I don't get it, like what does it mean, like what's the punchline and stuff, and I was like, well, what don't you get? But I'm over here like connecting the dots in my own head instead of doing it for the reader. on the page, so there was a little bit of a learning curve there. But that was good. That was good for good practice for us to keep writing like short jokes and stuff. But there's also as far as the writing aspect, I also read like comedy books too. I love comedians. Grew up with comedians. I was talking about my dad earlier. He was all into the big comedians from back in the day. So again, really familiar with comedy, but then started actually reading about the mechanics of it. So, and it's weird because whenever I started doing that, it's as you read it, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. But then you're like, wait, but this is put very intelligently for me to read. Like I know it. I know that I know it, but I don't know how to explain it. Yeah, exactly. Like it just lined everything out. So there was a lot of that stuff. So that's kind of what it boiled down to, was getting the mechanics down and then kind of just going back and forth and just kind of massaging it to make it funny. Since I did a lot of the reading on the writing part, the technical part, I'm good with. But I say that Oscar, like whenever I send like a script to Oscar or a treatment or something, like he's the one that like really funnies it up. Like he's the one that's able to come up with more like the slapstick stuff a little bit better. He has a better mind for that. And then once he starts doing that, then that's kind of when I get on board. And then we start really going back and forth.
We've talked to a lot of creators, right? And the most part, they're solo artists. They're just, I do it my way. This is how I do it. I don't, this is my thing. Working with a partner, I mean, to be upfront with you, I feel like it's tougher. Or do you feel that because you guys know each other for so long that it doesn't even feel like that's much of a back and forth?
I don't say it again. Like so say it again. Like Ando, you started off, then you pass it on to Oscar, and then he sends it back to you.
Somewhat. That's kind of how it's been recently. Like together we'll come up with an idea, like for the like in this case for an issue, right, of Mashbone and Grifty. We'll write out a treatment, then I'll start like on maybe we'll talk about a few lines or something for it. Then based off of that, I'll start actually making a whole script. So I try to do an entire script if I can, and then send it to Oscar, and then we'll start going back and forth. Like he'll read it, and then he'll see like I don't get this part, this doesn't make sense, or what about this, and then we'll just talk about it from there. And then I'll just make adjustments as we need to.
The only way I can imagine it is like bands, because I've never really done any of that. But it's like you hear like a VH1 behind the story, stuff like that, and they go back and forth about how somebody writes. And there's like bands that collaborate, and then there's bands that just one person does everything, and everybody just shows up and plays the instruments, right? So it's like Stanley was saying, it's kind of weird that you guys are, well, I don't know, from my perspective, that you guys are able to kind of go back and forth and play ping pong essentially, right?
Well, that's the thing, man, is that there's no ego, or
that's good.
Because of the fact I think it's, and I don't think we've ever actually had a serious conversation about this part, but I think it's because like we've known each other for so long, because our goal has been like make people laugh. Like we used to do like stupid shit to make people laugh. We had like theater class, and we just stand around doing like a 2-person bit. Nobody's standing around just to see how long it takes for someone to stand there, listen to us, and then realize we're just being idiots, And so anyway, so we just always wanted to make people laugh. So that's kind of the end goal. With the book, like Oscar was saying earlier about the wrestling thing, it'd be great to blow up the comic. That's the goal, right? But right now for me, like I'm living the dream, man. Like we got our own series going. It's well reviewed and everything. What we're doing is good. So like I said, for me, there's no ego. For Oscar, the same thing. It's just about making like the funniest possible story that we can. That's that speaks to us, to our humor, to who we are and stuff. So
that's great, man.
But I think that's what makes it a little easier for us to do it that way. There are some concessions every now and again. Some things I can tell sometimes. When Oscar's like not completely convinced on something, but he trusts me enough. If I'm like pushing, he trusts me enough to be like, okay, cool. And same way the other way too.
Yeah, that's definitely a part of it. Like the no ego thing, where I really care about these characters and I want the best for them, and I know that Rolando feels the same way. So like, if I'm really fighting or pushing hard for something, he'll usually let it slide, and vice versa. If he really feels strongly about something, I'm not gonna put up a fight about it because like the end product is the goal, you know. Having a product, you know, like if the next issue of Mashbone and Grifty takes us 6 years, that's bad news bears, you know. It shouldn't take that long, and if it takes that long, it's because we're fighting over it.
No, it sounds like a Tool album. Every decade, once every decade. It's good though, so maybe.
So like, so the main thing is like, let's just get it out, you know, to where, even like art quality, you know, like issue 1 is the best thing I've ever drawn, like ever. Issue 1 of Mashbone Grifty, in my opinion, is my like masterpiece. Issue 2 and 3, I wanted to get them out the door. You know, they still look good. I think they could look better. I'm gonna give them like tiny bit of polish for the Kickstarter because they're good enough. Part 1, putting it in color, which is making it look really even better than I thought it could be.
Oh yeah.
So like there is some concessions on like being on time is better than being perfect, you know?
Well, I write. Right? So I'm like in Rolando's camp. I write tons of stuff. But whenever I can collaborate with somebody, I end up sitting there going like Rolando said, maybe you don't get it. Like, you know, maybe you don't, not fuck you, but it's like, maybe you don't get it. You know, like, or I'll go, they'll get it. The audience will get it.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll go over the guy's head, and maybe, like you say, maybe it is maybe my ego, or maybe it is that I don't work well with a partner, that I just want to tell my story my way, and I think I need to open up myself a little more to try and get there. I mean, what kind of advice can you give someone like me that's like has something to tell?
I think it also has to do with like knowing your audience. Like, I don't know if we totally know our audience yet. I don't think we have a big enough online presence, or we don't get enough feedback to know who, in fact, is enjoying the book. But I can speak, for example, of wrestling,
okay,
where my character, the character that I play, his name is Buggin'. He's a little puppet. Like in the ring, the puppet's the guy wrestling, and the old man that my body is playing is the puppeteer. But over the lifetime of the character, the fans did not want to see him as a puppet. They wanted to see him as a real person, and that makes it even funnier. So I ended up doing that. Like, he's an actual person. The announcers would announce him as a real boy, and like. And
you're the valet.
So we did this thing where when the match happens, I'm not there.
Ah, okay.
I'm just not there. And they'll sometimes say that I'm ringside.
Gotcha.
You know?
Gotcha.
So, and the fans accept it. They like it. And there was one time where the old man was gonna get kidnapped, and so they're gonna punch the puppet. Puppet's gonna fall out of my hand. They're gonna kidnap the old man, and they're gonna say, if you want to see your uncle again, you're gonna have to throw the fight later. So they took me backstage. And the promoter was like, well, what are we going to do with the puppet? He's just laying lifeless on the ground. I said, oh, well, after they take me back there, I'll immediately run back in and put the puppet on.
Yeah.
And they'll say, no, that's not going to work, because that's fucking stupid. Like, how are you going to run back? You're kidnapped. I'm like, no, but I'm not there. You see?
Yeah.
It's not really me.
They'll get it.
Like,
They'll get it.
It's just not going to work. But by then I knew the audience. I knew what they want. I knew what they'll accept.
Imagination.
Yeah, like accepting the rest.
It's like that SpongeBob meme. It's like imagination.
Once the fans can accept the puppet wrestling, there's really no limit. So like, and he said, well, how will they know that that's not really you in the ring, that you're still kidnapped? Well, this is how. So when it happened in the show, they kidnapped me. I immediately ran in the ring, put the puppet on, and I got the mic and I said, Oh no, Uncle Juan is kidnapped. There, problem solved.
Problem solved.
So the
And it
audience
went
I think it's
over
matter, right?
badass.
It
Yeah,
went.
and
it helps
it's
know your
awesome because
audience.
like I went to go see you guys twice
Mm-hmm.
for at the four taps, right?
Four
Out
Tap
here in
Brewery
North
on
Austin.
Metric.
Yep, up north in Austin. And I went out there and I was showing people where I was going, or people later commented what I posted, and people loved that whole puppet and you not be. It's like
Uh-huh.
fucking, and like there's videos of Oscar just kind of like throwing the puppet, like
doing flips and stunts
Yeah,
and whatnot.
yeah, front
and
backflips and
it's
kind
the
of
funniest thing, man,
yeah,
when he's getting
yeah,
when Puggin Head's getting beat up in the corner, and like
yep.
Oscar's like next to it. Like I even get lost in it, you know. Like I'm just looking at the puppet, but then I look over at Oscar for a split second, but he's also acting like he's getting his ass kicked. So it's like even though you see him, it's like, all right, that pain in Oscar's face, that's the puppet's pain, you know. It's really
Yeah.
weird. It's a really weird
Yeah,
dynamic.
there's an extra layer on it because I am actually like not in the best shape, and that doing that stuff is
In pain because I am
Literally in
actually in
pain.
pain.
But back
Well, I
to
was just talking specifically about the
to my
quarterback.
question. So like when you guys are creating the book and you're going through it and you say, okay, there's you guys give and take. There's give and take, right, to make this work, and the friendship obviously helps in that. But as a creator, like you said yourself, you may have a certain idea that you want to stay. Like, hey, I want this in the fucking book. Like, I want it. You may not get it, but I want it. I mean, does someone like me that wants to really, I do want to collaborate with somebody else, right? But I don't know what would be stopping something. Have you guys? I mean, you guys have worked together, but I'm sure you've worked on your own stuff. I mean, what's kind of led you to allow yourself to work with somebody else besides the friendship? Putting that aside, what do you think can be something we can use and you can give some advice on?
I think it's healthy to be in a collaborative, environment and working with people. I think it helps with ego as well a little bit. It's so like mixed that it's hard to say like this is all my shit or this is all Rolando's shit. Like even the drawings and the layouts. I'm always sending Rolando thumbnails and sketches and color schemes and be like, what do you think about this? And he'll send it back and say, hey, what do you think about this, this, and this? And instead of saying yes or no, I'll try it.
Okay.
That's the only way to see, does Rolando's art critiques work? The way I know the real answer is I do it. If it doesn't work, I'm like, yeah, that didn't work,
Yeah, I'll have his ass doing like 5 versions of a thing sometimes.
God.
Well, try it this way. Well, what if we did this? What if we did a combination of this? And sometimes like and this is the thing. This is one of the things for you is on that question about writing. One thing is like confidence. Like or whenever you collaborate with someone. So in that case, I think to myself like, man, like maybe this is pushing it. Telling him to like redo this thing again. But I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. No, like we want for this thing to look cool. So I'll go ahead and send it. So be confident in who you're collaborating with. Of course, trust. But if you're first collaborating with somebody, that's going to be really hard to do. But I think probably the best piece of advice that I could give is something that I learned in researching comedy, and that was one of the golden rules: is always be prepared to throw out your best joke. So even if you think, and that speaks to what we're talking about right now about knowing your audience and trusting people, and you think it's your stuff's the shit, but maybe it's not.
Yeah.
That's basically what it boils down to. Have that mentality. Be willing to throw out your best thing, whether it's comedy, it's a joke, or drama, your best scene that makes people cry, or you think's gonna make someone cry. Always be prepared to do away with that, because I've had to do that several times. Like I was talking about that comic strip earlier.
Yeah.
That was the thing, is that I thought my punchline was cool because I know the joke, but nobody else is gonna get it. So I had to throw out my best line. Same thing with the script. There can be whole chunks of like of a comic, and by the time we start volleying it back and forth, and it's like, man, like this thing isn't gonna fit. Now it's getting to the point to where maybe Oscar didn't say anything about it, but now I'm like shoehorning this one piece that I think is super cool, but because of the one adjustment we made, like now it's gonna kind of throw it off. So then so again,
much.
even though it's gonna take more work, even though it's going to take more work, like still, like what's going to be the best thing in the end? What's going to be the best end product.
I like
So
that.
so again, from me, that's the best thing. Always be prepared to throw out your best stuff.
I think that's sound advice, man. It helps me, helps anybody else out there that's just kind of struggling with, everybody knows the guy that has a notebook full of drawings, doesn't show anybody, or the notebook, or I have a couple screenplays I never show anybody. You know what I mean? And it's always like, well, shit, read it, or what are you worried about? Like just put it out there. Like I always hear everybody tell me the exact same thing, like you said, Oscar, earlier. Get it out there. It doesn't have to be perfect. Let's just get it done, right? Let's put it out there to see what happens, right? So,
Right.
I want to touch on your Kickstarter. You had a Kickstarter earlier this year. You touched on it a little bit here. Can you guys share a little bit about your Kickstarter and what November is, what November, the November date means?
Yeah. November is, a long, long time ago. The guys, their names were Pilgrims.
Okay, the
They showed
invaders.
up and they coughed on all the beautiful
Native
brown
American,
people and
yeah.
got them sick. And
Wear your damn mask.
Wear your mask.
Wear your mask. It's so relevant.
Yeah.
No. November is the projected deadline for our comic, where our graphic novel, Mashbone of Grifty Volume 1, Open for Biz, will be sent to the backers. And yeah, we're pretty excited about it. I've been working on it every day since the Kickstarter ended. I was pretty nervous because about a week and a half into the Kickstarter is when the whole pandemic happened.
Oh, yep.
And I was fully prepared to just, let the Kickstarter die. Like nobody should give money to this thing because like shit has hit the fan,
Like, yeah, go buy groceries.
Yeah,
Go buy masks.
I mean, gas
Right.
was cheap, so.
You know what? People pulled through. It was really nice. I was very happy to see it, and we got one, maybe two stretch goals, I think.
I think we got 2.
Yeah, we got 2 stretch goals, which is extra stickers, and we're gonna send out the black and white comics, single comics with the graphic novel, so
that's
people
great.
can see the difference and maybe give those to some friends and stuff. So, and then hopefully we'll be able to cut a deal where we can have some extra graphic novels available to sell to people who did not partake in the Kickstarter, and that'll also be in November.
Awesome.
So, stocking stuffers, people.
Definitely, man. I'm a fan. Like, I like your stuff. I really enjoy it. And I think that you guys need to check out their work. You really need to check out their books. Don't wait till November. Go spend some money now, man. Go support them. It's a couple bucks. It's like the cup of coffee. It's that cheeseburger you're not supposed to eat. It's
Yeah,
that,
you can get them on Comixology too.
there
Yeah,
you go. Comixology as well. You ain't gotta travel no more.
Amazon as well. Mm-hmm.
There you go. Look for Mashbone and Grifty there. But I want to pitch something to you guys before. I know we're getting close and long here in time, but check this out. We need to get some money together. Maybe it's a Kickstarter thing. I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? Maybe an original thing we can get our hands on. It can't be that expensive to buy the rights for Brave Star. So, if you don't know what Brave Star is, okay, I'm bringing this up because, and I'm bringing it up as relevant in a way. We talked about Tex Avery cartoons here and there. Masters of the Universe is coming back to on Netflix. Kevin Smith is a showrunner for it. They're making a very big Walter. It's He-Man. Okay, if you don't know Masters of the Universe. Okay, so Brave Star. Native
Oh
American.
crap! I remember Brave Star.
Yes, you fucking remember Brave Star. 30-30,
Fuck
yeah.
yeah. My dad would always. I would be watching it. My dad 30-30. And
El
it's like,
30-30. We watched this in El Salvador.
Well,
and he's brown like me.
I really hate to burst your bubble. I really hate to.
Don't do it.
But in 2012, DreamWorks paid $155
The world was
million
supposed to end as well.
It
So
ended.
to acquire Classic Media,
Ah,
which one of those franchises includes Brave Star.
damn it.
All right,
Damn it.
so but that means that DreamWorks bought all of those. It includes Brave Star, so we may still be able to buy it.
Ooh, that's true.
Ah.
No, Brave Star. If you don't
Now,
know,
I think DreamWorks pulled a WWE, and they bought this shit just
Stat
so
on it.
other people can't use it.
So they
dude,
can
because
use
it's
it.
a fucking great story. If you don't know what it is a Native
loved it.
American.
I
loved it. Look it
Yeah.
up. Brave Star. Native American sheriff in New Texas. All right, New Texas. Okay. And he has powers. He has the ears of a wolf, the hearing of a wolf, the strength of a bear,
Bear.
the speed of a puma, right? And he has a shield, like a badge, and like a sheriff's badge, and it becomes a shield that protects him from lasers. And he rides a horse named 3030, 3030.
En español sería mejor el 30-30.
3030.
Yeah.
That actually talks and fights and shoots, and it has inclusion. What was it, Judge? I forget her name. She's a judge, and she's a judge, and she has a giant like electric gavel that she hits people with. Like, it's all the combinations. If He-Man can come back,
Judge Judy or what? Like
no, it's Judge something. I'm just going off memory at this point. All right, it's forever ago.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at is Brave Star needs
Have
to
a
make
good
a comeback.
fucking memory, man.
Well, cartoons, man. We grew up with cartoons.
Yeah.
That's all we had. The Noid. I remember the Noid. That never gonna come back. But point is, Brave Star. Why I say it's because He-Man's coming back. Brave Star can come back. I'm ready for something like this.
What's it called? She. What's it called? The Netflix also has the female version of She-Ra. Yeah. It's like updated and much more progressive and all.
Yeah, I heard that show's good.
You're completely
on
right.
my list.
Yeah, it look. I watched like 3 episodes of it. It looks pretty cool. I like the design and everything.
But why can't we have Brave Star, guys? Is it just because it's just nobody knows it? It's perfect for a reboot.
No, yeah. I'm sure it's on the way. I'm sure it's on the way.
Can we do like a heist to like steal it from DreamWorks? Is there a way to just like heist it?
I mean, everybody's at home.
So how about we do Star Brave and we flip the names,
Oh,
30-30 will be the same though. But 30-30 will stay the same,
El 33.
Yeah.
There you go, el 33. El 33. We call him Star Brave. Give him more, instead of being a sheriff.
Or el Siete Machos. Remember Cantinflas, el Siete Machos, something like that. Yeah. Damn, that's freaking dope. Yeah, it's cool.
But
just change it enough to where you won't get sued.
That's what we gotta do, man. That's what we gotta do. But besides you, right now your main project is Smash One and Grifty. We have the book coming out in November, the full volume 1. And like you said, yeah, you guys have a lot of stuff going on. There's probably a bunch of shit you guys are working on that hasn't even seen the light of day yet. So the good thing is there's always something coming down the line for you guys. We have a lot coming from 5
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Like, it's, we want to support you guys. We want to make sure that we're telling everybody to go visit, at 5 Meets, all their social media, look them up. Like you said, Comixology, you can look at their current book, and of course look out for November. Just follow them, give them some feedback. If you bought their books, you hear them tell you right now, you love them, but let them know. Let them know you love the books. Let them know what we can do better next time. All that, like you said, that feedback is necessary. We always talk about letting everybody know that you're supporting them. That's something we can do online instead of always complaining and bitching. Plus, we can always yell at DreamWorks to let Brave Star go and let the 5 Meets have a go at it.
We'll have to sign we'll have to create and get the petition signed.
There you go.
Yeah.
Exactly, guys. Well, I mean, we reached the end of the show, guys. I know I've kept you longer than I promised, but I thank you guys for just coming on. I hope it's not the last time we get to chat. I'm pretty sure it's not. We'll just kind of do the best we can with what we've got. Wear your mask, everybody. Stay safe. Stay at home. But we want to give you guys, the last word. If you want to just go, I'll go with Oscar here first and just kind of say your goodbyes. You can just tell everybody kind of, one just good piece of advice for anybody out there just trying to create something.
Well, if you want to create something, I would really suggest to give yourself a little bit of good karma and go out and support other people who are doing the same. And right now, I mean, everybody wants to support, support our own people, but for God's sakes, guys, Black Lives Matter.
Yes,
There's
sir.
a ton of amazing comic books out there on Kickstarter by a lot of really high quality. There's a lot of really good stuff out there. Just find something, Black owned, Black written. Give them some cash, and if it succeeds, that's a win. Everybody needs to step out of their little bubbles, and because that's the only way we're all going to get through this.
Awesome.
And to piggyback off of that, there's actually one creator in particular I want to shout out. His name's Scarrets. He goes by Scarrets on Twitter. He has a book called Scorpio out. I believe he has 2 issues out. So that's a good title to pick up. It's pretty interesting stuff. but yeah, basically what Oscar's saying. I mean, just kind of just be mindful of each other. In general, people just kind of be mindful of how you treat others. The things that you say to people, just remember that words are hurtful. They say sticks and stones can break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That's bullshit. Words can go a long way to damage people.
Yeah.
So absolutely, be mindful of the way you treat others. And creatively, for anybody that just wants to put their work out there, you have a lot of avenues. You have a lot of avenues in social media. If you want to show how much of a smartass you are, go on Twitter. Put your little quips and quotes out there. If you're a photographer, you're an artist, or you draw, that kind of thing. There's Instagram. If you just want to put like short stories or something, go to a place like Tumblr, or even Facebook, something like that. But there's a lot of avenues right now to put your work out there. Luckily for me, while social media is on the rise and stuff, I collaborate with Oscar, so that's how I put my stuff out there. But even then, if you're a writer, blog it. If you're an artist, there's Instagram. But yeah, there's no reason for you not to put your work out there. Just be confident. Everybody starts somewhere. Everybody started with stick figures or whatever, and I started with putting together a bunch of jokes that didn't make any sense to my best friend. So, you got to start somewhere. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there, because that's what art is. Whenever you do any kind of art, you're putting yourself out there. So that's what it's going to take.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys.
I'd like to say thank you, kind of to bring it all together. I'd like to say thank you because it kind of and I'm looking at Stanley here, my cousin, my primo, it kind of, because I know how he appreciates this type of knowledge, and anybody out there listening to, kind of give a background about how the writing process works, and just to put your stuff out there. And to a certain extent, you have to kind of be vulnerable, right? And when you put your stuff out there, because you don't know how people are going to react. And even just today, I got a friend of mine said that her husband is trying to start a podcast and asked for some advice. And he's an anthropologist, and he's a DJ. His name is DJ, so he's a DJ.
He's an anthropologist. He's an anthropologist
DJ, and he's trying to start his own podcast. She was kind of like, any advice? And I'm like, stay consistent, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, which is good. I kind of appreciate that you guys are kind of putting yourself out there and came here to kind of give a background of how, shit gets created and all that, which kind of, whoever's listening out there, just do it, Like even our previous guests have said, just, hit the ground and do it and just get it done. But just, to end it as well, just wanted to say, I'm sick of my own breath. Wear your fucking mask. Purell tastes like a condiment by now. It's like everything I eat has a Purell aftertaste,
Just a dab.
Yeah, just a dab. And just want to say thank you to Reyes Coffee for sending me coffee, and my parents. I just checked on them; they loved it, so that's pretty cool. And like you said, Black Lives Matter, and we're all Native Americans here. Don't let them tell you otherwise, man. So keep it up, people.
Right on.
Good night, guys. Buenas noches. Take care of each other.
Thanks.
Adios.
Time to play the game. It's all about the game and how you play it. All about control, and if you can take it, all about your debt. And if you can pay it, it's all about pay. And who's gonna make it? I am the game. You don't wanna play me.